Hello everybody, welcome back to No Man's Sky with your host Koi, and we've got a fun project for you. I'm going to show you right now what it is. We're going to be talking about it in this episode. A real world clock. Look at this thing. Right now, officially, it is Pacific Daylight Time here where I live. I'm not telling you where I live, but this clock should give you an idea. Right now it is 7:18 p.m. in the Pacific Time region, which covers a big wide region, okay? And this clock, I found out just today because I left this just for, I don't know, a day. And I just wanted to see, will this clock hold the time or will it fail the whole time? And I found out this clock actually keeps time. I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. It still keeps time even though I logged off. See, there you go. It changed. It's already 7:19. So we're going to be paying attention to this clock as it ticks around. And if I'm really lucky, it'll be 8 o'clock by the time I'm done with recording. So you can see this whole thing shift over here, and you see an 8 show up. But I don't think this can happen. I'm not going to record for 45 minutes. I'll do my best, okay? So let's go get started with what's going on with this project. Alright folks, so we're going to start with the very last thing that I built, which is going to be the very first thing I show you. This little blinking orb called lights that make the clock run. We're going to follow this little blinking wire all the way back to the very back. And by the way, for reference, the very first thing I built was solar panels and battery. I've got 3 batteries hooked up because I wasn't sure if 2 batteries was enough. I got a furnace biofuel reactor here just in case I need it, because the solar panels I wasn't sure was covering everything, but as you can see I am definitely covered battery wise. I got almost everything. I get at least 53% charge before the thing dies. I want to show you how impressive this is. This thing uses right now at 719, 720 96 kp used, which is insane, and it shifts depending, as you can see, it's actually ticking. That clock's ticking, so depending on the tick, depending on the time, it uses more, it uses less. The time's now backwards, so it is 720 upside down, okay? Let's follow this blinking line back to this. So this little guy right here, the very first thing I probably built on No Man's Sky, is responsible for my ticking because I couldn't find a way to make this contraption right above it cause the ticking to happen, to show up on the little dot there. So I set up an independent circuit to create the little tick like a quartz clock, okay? So that's what divides that little ticker that you see way down there. Let us talk about the clock. This entire wall right here is the clock, and we're going to break this up into segments, okay? That's the clock. This side over here is the hours. This side over here is the minutes. And we'll be talking about how all of this insane contraption even does what it does. I'm not going to be building any part of this. I'm just going to explain how it works. And for you, Kier1, who happen to be on the Discord, you love pretty light. So I have pretty light everywhere. You can see everything that it does as we talk, okay? You're going to love this, right? So here's the thing. We got a button to turn this thing on. I have a wall switch here to basically power it off. So if I need to shut the clock off for any reason, I can shut it off. I have to thank Stina from the Discord for helping me with those wonderful things that you see down there, these wonderful things here, and those wonderful things there, pretty much all over the place. He helped build the asynchronous counter, which I used in the last video to set up the LED display, and the synchronous counter, which speeds things up not very much. Okay, the reason I went with a clock and not an adder is I didn't have to worry about how long this thing takes. The difference I did have to make is how do I create a full 60-second count. So here's the thing. These repeaters here are counting in sets of 10. So we're going to go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If you rewind the video, you will see that these will follow pretty darn close to your video count time. I tried to do my best to start the clock right on 00. Unfortunately, I don't have any clocks to start on 00 anymore, which is really annoying. So I did the best I could. This is off by maybe like 20 seconds or something like that, but that's okay. So this here gets fed into this here, right about this guy. This guy gets fed into this system, and this, by the way, helps shut off the rest of this. Each one of these binary clock counters represents 1 bit. Each bit represents how much time is passing. So once we get through the entire series, you'll start to kind of understand what happens here. So it starts way over here at 1. This guy is going to be 10 seconds. So this 1 here is representing 10 seconds. By the time it comes to here, this is representing 20 seconds. By the time both this light and this light is on, it represents 30 seconds. And by the time we go to there, it's 40 seconds. Once this far left light on and the right light is on, that represents 50 seconds. And then once we hit both of these lights, it represents 60 seconds, and that changes the clock that's right behind me. and you will eventually see this time change from 723 to 724. And it'll do its thing in a minute here. I want to point something out. So once the single propagates, as you can see, the single is kind of making its way through the system here. It eventually pops out on the side where this light is here. And you'll notice there's a strange little line that comes up to this here auto switcher and that auto switcher there. Let's get into build camera mode so I can show you some stuff of what's going on here. So if you notice, this here is true and this here is true. It activates the system as it just did. Both inputs come in. There happens to be an output that goes right from here up through this and down and back around again. This is the power line, by the way, the power line coming up. And so it's basically saying if the power is true and the output of these two true items are true, it's going to come up over here, turn this on, which then powers this line off, which then turns this light right back off again. And the same is true for this side too. This is coming up off the power line, and this is shutting this light off too. So what I'm doing is essentially choosing where the binary counter is going to stop, okay? So it stopped after six count, because I don't need 7. I really don't need 7, really. And I don't have any more to make more than this. This is just a 3-bit binary counter that reaches 7. So where does this line go when it's all said and done? Once we kind of get the count, by the way, this is still coming up. Once this here is true as an output, the output comes out, goes around, does the thing, turn off the lights, reaches this inverter and part of the auto switcher. So both that line there and this line has to be true for the single to propagate. The reason for the inverter is to shut this line off right in here, so that way this doesn't stay on and do more things. So then we come over to the minute time. Each one of these counts here, I'm just going to zoom out for reference so that way you can kind of see, especially Kier One, who loves seeing the sparkly little light things and do his fun little cool light stuff, right? So as this thing here counts, this represents 1. And I believe this is, I got this one, yes, this here represents 1. It's on the other side, it goes backwards. So this represents 1, there's 2, and then 2 of these is 3, yada, 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 and eventually goes up. And this time here represents the hand. And we're just going to zoom out. Let's hope I can get all the way there, and I'll show you what time it is real quick. Come on. Where am I? There we go. Much better. So this represents this 9 right here. And so this 9 will not propagate any further. Yeah, I love this. So I have a lag, and this lag drives me nuts. I'm going to come right back when I come back out. Every so often, I lag out, the floor disappears, and I fall through the floor. Wonderful trap if you want to do that. Build some heavy tech stuff, and you die, basically. So let's get back over here since I'm standing. I might as well run over here then. So what's going to happen is on the minute hand, there's 4 binary bit counter. It counts all the way up to 15. We don't need 15. For a true LED clock, it stops at 9, resets to 0. Right now it's 6. So once it hits 9, it's going to reset that to 0, and that's going to move this guy to 3. So that way it'll actually stay 30 rather than going to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. If we actually did bit counters, this thing would be like insanely big. Real LED clocks do not go insanely big. This is like the alarm clock that you have sitting on your bed. Okay, this works exactly like it, practically, with a few minor details because No Man's Sky doesn't have, like, transistors and diodes and all this weird stuff. Okay, that should be in here, especially inductions. Where's the inductions, right? And so right now we got 7 here, right? And in 2 more ticks, you're going to eventually come up to 9 once we get there. So the idea here is an asynchronous counter is missing, essentially, an inverter and an auto switch. But here's the bizarre part. I managed to pull out that inverter and auto switch and use it as a separate intake system, so that way the signal that comes out of here that gets propagated through this system goes faster and proper, so when it comes to here it doesn't do this weird light thing that causes the light to short out. And so what's weird about that is it needs this in order to not short out. So this actually is an inverter auto switcher setup, sorry, my mind blank there, that actually sets up a temporary asynchronous system to get the synchronous system started. And if you notice, just follow the line here that's dark red right here. It goes through here, it turns this one on, and it turns this one on, and it keeps going. We're already at number 8 there, and it goes all the way through the system. And you notice auto switchers have to have, it's an AND gate setup, so you have to have this line coming in being true and this line coming in true. The only reason that light is on because we have propagated through 1, 2, 3 sets of light all being on, which eventually flipped the line and caused it to go true here. Each one of these synchronous counters are JK flip-flops, and you can see the JK flip-flop working because it does one and then it does the other and it flips like it should. We should be coming up any second now to our wonderful 6 in about one tick here. We'll be going to, or at least 10 seconds anyways. It's going to go to 6. Come on, 6. Let's roll us to 6. There we go. There's one light there. That's 5. We got one more light. I want to show you what happens. As you can see, the count's still going through. And it's kind of cool. It's based off the 10-second count there. The light just got such a long delay by the time it hits there, but it still matches up. So once we get to 6, this should be going to 9. And then once we get to 9, that 8 turned into a 9. You could just see that little bar right there where my little dot there, it just barely disappeared. And we're going to go over here because I want to show you the next one before I get there. And I'm going to explain everything once I can get there. Come on, run, run, run. Oh, God, just don't fall through the floor right now. That's a bad time to fall through the floor. Okay, there we go. So we got 29 right now. It should be ticking over to 30. I want to show you how 30 works. And I'm going to cut that out of the video a few times just to stop glitching me. That just looks disturbing. Okay, I want to show you how 30 happened. And you're going to see the 9 move into the 3. And then it's going to become a 0. And you'll see that any second now. I see the ticks working. It's going, it's going, it's going. It's almost there. And it should be ticking. What time is it way back there on the second hand? Oh, we got a few minutes. Oh my God. Well, there we go. And there it goes. We're hitting the 0. And there's your 0. And there's your 3. Now it's 7:30. Ain't that awesome? It works exactly like your bedside clock. Okay, here's the thing. I am completely floored I even built this thing. Number one, I did not watch a Minecraft video on how to do this. No, Minecraft videos. There is Minecraft videos on how to make a digital electronic clock. I didn't use any of them. Okay, in case you want to say, I use Minecraft such as I just pointed there by accident. So Minecraft was not involved in this. I used essentially the terms of normal electronics. I was looking up essentially how to do that. Somebody said to create a 555 timer. I'm secretly wondering if what I created here with a 555 sort of timer setup here. You can tell me, you can decide. Let me know if it's truly like a 555 timer. I don't think it is. I think it's like more of a modified clock that works to do what I wanted to do. So let's get back to this. So once we get the final single that comes out of this red line down here, each one of these lights here go into the oh my God, I can't talk. Synchronzer that moves up the chain through this. By the way, Sean, if you're watching this, you have changed this. Look at this. I'm showing you right now, I need these inverters to connect together, each line connected to every other inverter. You now have made that impossible. I have to separate out the inverters in order to get wires connected and almost make a separate wire for it. Don't do that. Fix it, please. Okay, back to the regular line. It goes through here. Each one of these represents a count. So this is 0, 0. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yada, 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 all the way up to 9. And then 9... all of this turned into the LED display that we had in the last video, which is all of this right here, which then goes into that one single line there. It's 731. Awesome. So then we have 10 up there. In an asynchronous counter, you actually have to consider 10 and 11. But for a synchronous counter, you only need to consider 10 and everything works fine. So you take the single from 10, and let's just kind of zoom myself up there before I fall through the floor again, because I know I'm going to. It goes up and out and down into these two auto switchers. These auto switchers work very much like the last one. Both of these have to be true, and I'll explain why I have two separate ones. One line goes down into this one here, and the other line, if you just kind of follow the cable there, it runs all the way over to here. I'll explain that one in a second. And then the other line goes all the way down into this spot here. Now, if you notice what's going on with this one here right there is lighted. The other one is not. And so I tried this and it didn't work. I put one auto switcher for both of these lights to try to turn both of them off. There I go. I fell through the floor. Awesome. Okay, like I was saying, I plugged lights into here and there for one auto switcher. And what happened is this guy would keep this guy on, and then the lights would not properly propagate through the single because this guy would never ever turn off because this guy over here would always stay on. So you have to keep these two lights separate and create separate auto switchers to properly turn them off. And this is actually the same setup that I've got here, turning off two separate light switches. I was trying to do it under one, but it failed. But whatever, I can work around that. So let us follow the line that goes into the second minute hand. In other words, the 10 plates minute hand. That guy comes over here. goes into this auto switcher, and this inverter does the exact same thing as the inverter that you see down there on the bottom left of your screen, which happened to be, if I can point there, we go right about where my finger is disappearing off the screen. That's the inverter and auto switcher we just talked about. So this is doing the exact same setup of an asynchronous system just to get the single started. Okay, and that goes up here. The minute hand, if you think about it, one part of the minute needs to be 9. The other part of the minute needs to be 5. So I did with this that I did with this. So I stopped this one at 60. I'm actually stopping this one at 50. So you notice the places that I'm stopping are very different. And so I have the same setup here. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then all I need to do is stop it at 6. So I come up to 6. And I do the same thing, and it shuts off these two lights in exactly the same place that this one did. The only difference here is this is, I'm saying, it's stopping at 60 seconds, or 59 seconds, so to speak. By the time the single propagates here, it's 60 seconds. And so that's why I've got it devoted to stopping at 6 here. On the other hand, for this one, I wanted to stop at 59 minutes, okay? And so whenever it rolled over to 60, it turned off the light to make him 0 again. And that's what's happening here. So whenever this guy gets to 7:59, it will roll up and see the 59, cut it off, stop one at 0, and stop the other at 0, and then makes it 0, for 8 o'clock. Okay, I've yet to get to the other parts of the system. We're going to come back to that. Sorry about the big giant glare from the battery there. And by the way, so this here, I know it's messy. I know it looks bad. I know it just looks like, what the heck did I do? Especially this one. This one went all spaghetti on me. I'm like, what the heck? And so I tried to do the same thing there, and still spaghetti. I'm like, my God. So if you want to see how this gets put together for the LED, look at the last video. Both of these, actually all of these things are doing the exact same thing, but in typical electronics, you're working with something called EPROMs. So essentially each circuit is a separate EPROM. Instead of putting them all together, I decided to separate them. So I have one EPROM right here down at the bottom, second EPROM right there, third EPROM, over here fourth EPROM, and technically the fifth EPROM, and the sixth EPROM, and I'll explain both of these in a few minutes, okay? So we'll come back to that, why that looks the way it is over there. So this all works the same way, goes up into here, goes into the LED, and we're coming down. By the way, this is really convenient. It says 7:36. I can tell how long I've been recording, because it was 7:25 when I started, right? So 10 minutes, awesome! We're gonna try to get that done at 15, 17, 20, something like that. Okay, so let us see what happened to the single. How did we get to the other side so we can get the hours rolling? Each one of these clock ticks here, from the 6 to the 3 to the 7 to the 0, each one rolls into the other consecutively, but not via concurrent. Each thing has to happen first before you can go to the next one. So this guy has to be a 9 before it can move over to this one and change this to a 4, for example. This 3 has to be a 5 before it rolls over here and makes this guy an 8. And then the 8 has to reach 9 before it rolls over here and makes a 1. And then this 1 only goes to 2. That was really difficult. I'll explain that in just a second, okay? Let us zoom in over here. So we got this output single. Once we get our 5, which technically represents 59, we got a single that, if you notice and follow the line that's coming up and out, goes all the way over here, drops all the way to the floor, goes past our clock because the clock was the last thing I built, goes all the way down, if my lag can support it. By the way, where's this lag coming from? Look at the crazy electronics. It's causing crazy lag. This is why you're getting these weird glitches on the screen, why the thing is slowing down, all this stuff. I do not know how to fix this. I'm worried because if I try to move into an adder, I'm worried it might take up too much resources to make this work, because apparently this does not stop even if I turn my game off. That was a shocking surprise for me. And I'm like, yes, this is better than Minecraft, because Minecraft, your clock would only run on spawn chunks. There is no spawn chunk. The entire planet is still rolling. And this actually proves a proof. Sean, if you're watching this, this proves a proof here. When I log off and I come back, the time is still rolling, and it shows proof that your world, your universe, your galaxy is still rolling as if I was logged in. Okay guys, I'm getting insane lag. I'm going to restart this. I want to show you something cool. So right now it is 7:40. I'm going to restart my game using my save here, reload manual save, because that's the last save I had. If you notice the time on there is from like a day or two ago. It's got an earlier time and everything. Check this out. I want to show you how cool this is. This is awesome. Okay, game just barely loaded. My goodness. Okay, so we're gonna look, see if what happens here. All of the auto switchers like disappeared. I have to like reload everything in by just walking around. The clock over there is horribly unloaded. Everything just like so lagged out. And eventually it popped in. And if you look at the time, it was 7:40, right? And check it out. 2 minutes of waiting here for this thing. And it's 7:42. The time that I was logged out, it finally popped on, 7:42. If you're thinking that's a 5, it's because we're backwards. Okay, if I run over here real quick, 7:42, okay? And I want to show you, 9:28. It is 9:30 right now. 2 days later, they're saved. So even though I'm reloading and saved from 2 days ago, it's actually picking up the clock from today and registering today's time, which is like mind-blowing. I'm just mind-blown right now. This is crazy. So yeah, this is super cool. I love the fact that the thing worked. I'm just floored by the fact that I even built it. We're over here, right? We're on the hour section. So this is representing our wonderful 7 o'clock right now. And about 20 minutes, well, a little under 20 minutes according to that there, we're going to be hitting 8 o'clock. And so this here works exactly like the other side, and it goes through the system and all that good stuff, and then it flows through the system. This is exactly the same 9 count that we saw on the other side, and then eventually on number 10, it sets off these 2 auto switchers to turn off this particular light and this particular light, much like the other side, so I'm not going to talk about that. What is important to notice, though, is how did the single get to the next section again? It comes off of that 10, goes through, rolls through, and then pops over here. And by the way, all of that stuff over there, both of those are the same thing as the LED for each LED. So each LED is representative of each its own. And if you're wondering where that 0 is going, it just phased out. So we just have to kind of zoom in until it pops back in. Okay, there you go. That way you know I didn't delete something. Right? So for the 1 and the 2, this is the trickiest part of the system. I had a ridiculous time with this. It took me literally a whole day to figure this out, okay? So I got the same auto switcher inverter setup, asynchronous entry. It goes into a synchronous system, which this basically represents 1 and 2. I don't need more than 1 and 2. I'm not doing a 24-hour system. If I was going to do 24 hours, by the way, I would set this up and do a second one of these to represent the 1, 2, 3, and then at 3, that's when I'm going to cut it off. I'm cutting it off at 3. And technically, I probably don't need to. I can just keep the... Well, yes, I would have to because this here would go to 4 and this here would go to 3. So I would need to see the 3 to get the proper cutoff. And so I need to have both lights on here, and then this would do a thing. So let's talk about how this guy shuts off. So the single comes out, goes down this red line here. It comes up into an inverter. Okay, and look at what's happening here. This took forever to sort of figure this thing out. It comes up into an inverter. When this gets powered on properly, and this, by the way, gets connected together, this is essentially representing this, but without everything else, because I just need 0, 1. So this is 0, and this is 1. The single, when it is 0, comes out, goes down into the LED system, whatever, right? The single, when it's 1, comes out, goes to the LED, yada, yada. But look at what happens with everything else, okay? You'll notice there's some extra lines here, and somewhere in here it actually connects to everything else that you're seeing in the system. What's important is the line that's shutting this guy off and the line that's rolling all the way to that line over there, right? So we got power coming in from the main line down here at the bottom. I'm just pointing out what everything is because you can't really make it out. Power's going to this auto switcher, that auto switcher, this auto switcher, and this auto switcher. This one here basically says if this is true, it's going to send a single. By the way, it's coming in from these lines over here as well. And I need to have certain lines coming out. So 1 here is coming out 0, 1, 2, and 3. If 3 is true, it's sending a single. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I believe it's 9. No, it is not. Okay, I found where 1 comes in. I forgot I made a junction right here and then it separates and goes this way. So if 3 is true coming in and 1 is true coming out, it sends a single down this way, sets off this auto switcher because both sides will be true for this one, and rolls this one to turn this light off here. Okay, that's the first auto switcher. Next one, it sends a single to this guy, also saying that this one is true, which then will turn this guy off, which then turns this one off here. So you basically have to have 13 being true. This one here being a 3, and this one here being a 1, essentially. And that has to turn off both of those. And when you turn off this one, it actually ironically turned that one off. So hey, I can't complain, right? And then this guy here is representative if this guy over here is true, which happens to be the 9, the 10, and both of these will set off this one, and it will also turn off this one. So these two, this particular light here will only turn off at a 9 and a 3 and a 1, or 13 shall I say. This one here only turned off with 9. This was really ridiculous to find out. I had many restarts and many challenges with this. I didn't actually connect these two systems, this side and the wall right behind me. I didn't connect the two together until I got this side sorted out. I forgot to mention something. One of the things is this has to go from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock and not have a 0. So if you remember how I connected all these lines over here to the sequencer, when it goes to the 9 and comes all the way over here and makes it essentially 13 between the 3 and the 1, this light actually stays on, so I don't have to connect anything to this guy. I completely forgot about that. Alright guys, before I get to 759, I want to show you one more thing. You forgot, or I forgot, shall I say, a power line that comes off of this. You'll notice I've got some lines here going to certain areas. So this is 1, 0, 1, 2. When the 2 comes up here, and this is an important distinction. When I go to 2, and this, by the way, goes to LED. This 2 comes up, goes this way, blah, 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 goes into this auto switcher. And the 1 that's coming out of this guy, it's going up and this way. So when you have a 1 and a 2, in other words, a 12, when 12 is true, it sets off this auto switcher inverter setup, and that turns this light off and this light on. This light on being representative of AM. I put it as a yellow light so that way you can see like sunlight, and then I put red light because red light's usually the thing you use in the dark. And so that represents the AM and the PM on this here dial. So AM will only turn on when we hit 12 midnight. Okay, I could have set this up in 24-hour clock format and said, well, when the whole thing is 0, 0, 0, this would turn on, but I went the challenging route and tried to go for the 12. The 12 is much harder to do than doing 24-hour clock, okay? I'm just pointing that out because there's nowhere in the clock where you have 24 or 23, 22, 21, 20. That's all set up for 24-hour clock. On the other hand, 12, you also have 0, 1, 2. You have that same setup there too, other than the 24, right? The 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a little bit different. You've got different places where you turn it off. So this here represents AM and PM. It only turned on twice a day. And I would have to wait until midnight to even show you this thing works. Okay, but I know it works because I've been testing this and I know it does its thing. All right, so I'm going to come back at almost 8 o'clock. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the moment of truth is almost here. It's 7:58. Also, we have 2 minutes to go. I just want to be able to highlight a couple things while I'm going there. So again, I can't go all the way because I'm standing back there so that way I can kind of snap back. That's our clock. It runs through, it gives me a 60-second tick. I'm just rehashing and giving a summary of everything, and I want to explain one thing right after it's all said and done. This thing gives me a tick for 60 seconds. This 60 second moved over here, moves this 8, makes it a 9. And then eventually this 9 is going to come up here and make this guy 8 o'clock. And then this guy down here will be moved away from the 9 back to a 0. Well, actually, wait a minute. Hello. Yeah, so this guy up here is going to... Oh my god, I'm saying it all wrong. What's wrong with me? Let me start over. This clock here is going to tick 10 seconds there, 60 seconds there. It's going to make this guy go into 9, back to 0. It's going to make that guy over there go from a 5 to a 6. And then eventually, whenever it gets to around to it, this 59, as you can see, 59 now, it's going to turn into 8 o'clock. And it's going to be so much fun to see. We're just going to kind of take a peek back there to see where we are in ticks and timers. We should be pretty close because the thing just disappeared. I'm like, don't disappear now. What a great time to disappear. But whatever, we're going to watch the thing tick even though the background scene has looked like it disappeared. You see my crazy lag. I want to point something out. You can actually measure the time of a planet day. And I would, if you're going to do this, I would recommend using a solar panel. You know how the solar panel comes up and out? Register that as time 1, and then just go through the entire day through darkness and back to time 1 again. Figure out how long it took to do the entire day, and then set up your clock. If you do this right, you could do some math and everything, and actually do one of the clocks to record actual planet time, which is awesome. There it goes. We're heading up. Yes, this is good. We're heading up to 8 o'clock. There's our 0. There is our second 0, which is slowly rolling in. You can see how slow this thing goes. there is our 8 o'clock is now 8 p.m. and this is where I call it quits on this video. I hope you guys liked this episode. I hope this was fun. I'm not showing you exactly how I built this because it's going to take me hours to do this because I built this over 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong. It took me 2 weeks to build this thing. So if you liked how this build came out, let me know. Leave me likes, leave me comments. Share with your friends. Share in the Discord. I'm probably going to share, okay? I'm going to probably share it on the Discord. I'm probably going to share on Reddit. But share everywhere else. Let your friends know I made this awesome thing. And this, by the way, is a real-time clock in No Man's Sky that continues to run. If you build a planet-based clock, it will also continue to run even though you logged off, which is mind-blowing that it happens. So, I was wondering if anybody happens to know when you put an auto switcher and an inverter now, you end up with this weird setup where there's a bunch of glitchy components and nobody knows what this weird photovoltaic looking object, which is not photovoltaic, nobody knows what this guy does, and I can't seem to figure it out yet. I've got some ideas. I'm wondering secretly if it's like a diode almost set up, but it's not, at least not that I can see.